Newcastle is treasured as a well-preserved link to the past, but it is also very much the product of the world at more recent periods of history. In this episode of Newcastle Narrated, we're taking a look at Colonial Revivalism, where it came from, how it has influenced people's ideas of the past, and how it is reflected in the Dutch House. Colonial Revivalism traces its roots to nostalgia for the Revolutionary War and early American Republic, though it gained momentum and flourished after the Civil War and particularly in the late 19th century. In reaction to a rapidly changing U.S., early American history was reduced to a simple, linear story, a nostalgic and patriotic narrative for an American public living through explosive urban and industrial growth, increased immigration, and an ever-expanding frontier. A number of organizations championing this romanticized notion of the past grew in the late 19th century, and this limited way of telling history captured the imaginations of many Americans. By the 1920s, colonial revivalism was thoroughly ingrained into American life. In Newcastle, a galvanizing moment for colonial revivalism was the destruction of the Tile House in 1884. The Tile House was a 1687 structure closely remodeled after Dutch architectural styles. In the quarter century after its demolition, interpretations of its unique architectural style proliferated, even to the rendering of its image on bricks saved at the time of demolition, including these on display in the Dutch House. It was during this period that A Day in Old Newcastle, a house and garden tour, began in 1924. Townspeople have opened their homes to visitors with genial generosity over the years, except during the years of World War II and the COVID-19 pandemic. Opening one's home to visitors became a civic duty as well as an opportunity to associate oneself with the town elite. Also a product of colonial revivalism in Newcastle was the restoration of the Dutch House and its opening as a museum. The house's restoration became the pet project of the Delaware Society for the Preservation of Antiquities in 1937, when the society bought the house and lot from local owners. Board members included a number of local elites, including and especially Louise DuPont Crowninshield, who personally selected furnishings for the home. While professionals were consulted during the restoration, it is understood that the changes made to the house were the product of colonial revivalism, and even the personal tastes of those overseeing the restoration. The manner of furnishing follows 1930s concepts of how museums ought to illustrate how colonial homes were furnished, with very little documentation on the objects included within. While colonial revivalism is long past its zenith, its contributions to preservation and showcasing the historical significance of Newcastle cannot be discounted. Though the movement was a product of its time, for better or for worse, we will appreciate and learn from these historic structures far into the future. Be on the lookout for our next episode about the many changes the Dutch House has undergone during its approximately 320-year history.